Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Robin Williams' natal chart part 2. As most of you know, Robin Williams tragically died on August 11, 2014 of suicide due to asphyxia from hanging himself. And it was very devastating news, of course, and sure, his family lost a very good man, and we lost one of the best contemporary actors, comedians of our time, or perhaps ever. And anyway, the chart that I'm doing is based on Western astrology and the Placidus house cusp system. So anyway, to get started, first thing, his chart ruler is in the 9th house, and this emphasizes philosophy, long journeys, abstract thinking, higher learning, and this is where his outer personality, the Scorpio, may have come out very strongly and figured prominently. Now, he has Mars conjunct Uranus in the 8th house, and the conjunction can indicate erratic, unpredictable energy. This may have played a role in his impulsive and, I guess you could kind of say, an unanticipated death, somewhat unusual or unexpected. This could indicate that much of his energy during his life was put into ingenuity. Possibly had a very strong interest in computers, electronics. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what this aspect can mean. And the fact that back to the conjunction with his connected with his death in the 8th house, maybe I'm thinking that this was could have maybe played a role, maybe a contributing factor in his abrupt death, and because Uranus is connected with things that are unpredictable, and having it in the 8th house of death also, you have these planets are in Cancer, so Cancer is associated with the home, and he did die in his home. Anyway, stellium in Leo. Now, this could indicate a strong emphasis on flamboyancy, extroversion, strong dramatic ability. He has Mercury, Pluto, and in his MC or midheaven in Leo and in the stellium. Now, I think this was indicated why he had such a strong stage presence and ability to captivate audiences. I mean, he had Pluto conjunct his midheaven in Leo, and it shows how he was able to have people so mesmerized maybe by what he was doing, and the fact he had such a powerful persona on stage, and having Mercury conjunct the MC. Now, he only has one planet in air in his natal horoscope. However, he was very, I would say, a voluble tongue would be an understatement as far as his manner on stage. He seemed obviously very loquacious when he's on stage, and basically a non-stop talker. And I think we saw that as far as his public image or in his career, and that really played a role in that. And anyway, he also he has a yacht in his chart with Venus, the ascendant, and Jupiter as the apex point. Now, with Jupiter in the 5th house as the apex point, Robin's mission, I guess you could say the finger pointing him to action, was to use his abundant creative and dramatic ability. Now, the sextile of Venus and the ascendant enabled him to, I believe, to incorporate charm in a very pleasant, amiable nature into what he would be doing on stage. So, anyway, the next thing is interesting about his horoscope, and he has the first quadrant, which encompasses the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd houses, is empty. Now, this could indicate that he was perhaps very non-egocentric, if you will, probably put others' interests ahead of his own on many occasions, very frequently, did not was one, to not emphasize self-aggrandizement, material items being the second house, the self-aggrandizement the first, and the short journeys which are connected with the third house. Considering he did some, I believe he did did a good amount of traveling, but that was more long distance, I would say, as opposed to short. So anyway, he also has Saturn only makes one aspect to his chart, and that's sextile to his sun. Now, this could indicate perhaps discipline may have been lacking, maybe to some degree, maybe to some extent he may have lacked pragmatism and practicality in applying this into his life. Perhaps this is maybe why we very seldom saw the stern or serious part of Robin Williams, that even when he'd be on an interview, he'd be very flippant and be always very jocular, always telling jokes, and a lot of his responses were very comical, and I think maybe it was somewhat attributed to the fact that Saturn only had one aspect and was everything but an unaspected Saturn as far as major aspects go. Now the next thing, his transiting Neptune at the time of his death conjoined his moon and north node, and this could indicate that perhaps his emotions were somewhat chaotic and convoluted, and which may have had difficulty possibly with lucid or clear decisions, which is the Neptune conjunct the moon, and the fact that the conjunction to the north node from Neptune could have indicated that he might have had some possible confusion regarding his life's mission and purpose at that point in time, and this may have, and perhaps the life's mission or purpose might have been vague and nebulous, and perhaps this was maybe a contributing factor, unfortunately, to his death, at least from an astrological vantage point. Now, the next thing, his transiting sun had conjoined his natal Pluto at the time, and his energy may have been injected into matters connected with control. This could be where maybe he was very resolute about not letting others manipulate or control him. He was obviously going to be very adamant regarding whatever decision he was going to be making, or decisions at that time. And this, coupled with the transiting sun, had also conjoined his 8th house ruler, which is Mercury. Perhaps this also maybe played a role in his possibly in his death. This is greater than average indicators of death. This is not going to happen to everybody that has the transiting sun conjunct Pluto, because that happens to everybody every year at some point, but I think it does increase the propensity a little bit as opposed to the average chance of that happening. So anyway, last but not least, he had transiting Saturn had squared his natal Mercury at the time. Now his thinking may have been somewhat intractable at this time. He may have had difficulty communicating certain things to other people. There may have been a tendency more to look on the negative side of a situation or situations, and this could, he was not going to be really listening to any other person probably but himself, more likely than not at this time, and it could indicate some pessimistic thinking at this time. So obviously that was not a positive for Robin Williams in this time, in that time period. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the Robin Williams natal chart, part 2 of 2. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my South Node aspect series. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.